What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on TGM Guitars. So as always, I like to start these videos by thanking everyone who's watched the videos recently. Whoever's subscribed, liked, commented, really appreciate it. Kind of makes me want to go on and do more. So if you haven't already and you enjoy this video, please consider doing that. Just leave a like, only takes a couple of seconds, or maybe even subscribe so you get to see content that I do in the future. So today I wanted to talk about something that's been very divisive in the guitar community for many years. There's many arguments online and also in person as to which of these two are the best, and that is the good old debate of Les Paul versus Stratocaster. Now, to most people, they are probably the most recognised guitar styles. When you see somebody on stage, they've most likely got either a Les Paul or a Strat. I mean, you can bring just Fenders in general compared to a Gibson, and that will be equally as divisive. I know a lot of people stick by one brand, and that is ultimately what they love and what they will fight tooth and nail to believe is the best. So today I'm just going to give a few views, why I think it's actually a good idea to own both and not pledge your allegiance to either, and just talk a bit about my background and why I make the certain choices when buying guitars. So, for those of you who've been living under a rock, I'm not sure why you're watching a guitar channel if you don't know that this is what a Stratocaster looks like. I probably should have picked my actual Fender because this has got the reversed bridge pickup. But you are talking a typical double cutaway body with all the chamfers, 3 single coil pickups, although I will touch on some modified versions, and your Superstrats, maple or rosewood neck, and your standard 6-in-line tuners. So, oh, and not forgetting the tremolo system, the synchronized tremolo system, which was pioneered when these guitars came out and has featured on quite a lot since. So these have had quite a big impact on the guitar community, and without a doubt, it's a true icon. So for myself, the Fender Stratocaster is one of the main reasons I got into guitar and one of the paths that I went directly down when I was asking for my first guitar. My first guitar, if you're not familiar, is a black Stratocaster copy. So I got this simply because I wanted to sound and play like Eric Clapton. So some people would argue that the Stratocaster is the most copied guitar out there. I mean, I don't think Fender, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think Fender actually patented or trademarked the body shape, which means anyone can go out there and make one, which is why you see so many independent companies and small companies and making a Stratocaster body, and because of that, a lot of people pick it up as their first guitar. Now, I will be the first to say it's not perfect for everything. Those 3 single coil pickups at times just don't sound big enough, don't quite do what you need them to. And what I'm going to do in this video is do a little bit of playing and just show you that what I think is the biggest thing and the biggest difference between the two types of guitars is not necessarily sound. You could do a little few things here and there to make one sound like the other, or to get the tone you're looking for with either, but it's more kind of how it makes you play. Now me, when I pick up a Strat, I play differently to how I'd play a Les Paul. Yes, it's the same sort of concepts and it's me playing the guitar, but I tend to have a different feel and a different way of playing. But quickly, let's talk about the Les Paul. So, when people think of a Les Paul, single cutaway, humbuckers. I know originally they were P90s, but 2 humbuckers, big old solid body with a set neck, rosewood fretboard, and your freer side tuners. Now there are guitars that emulate this, some that are straight rip-offs that eventually get shut down by Gibson, but this is your stereotypical Les Paul. Although this one hasn't got binding because I couldn't afford an actual standard. But anyway. So Les Paul came out in the early 50s. Main competitor was actually the Fender Telecaster, that solid sort of guitar body, 2 pickups, that's all people wanted back then. But it predates the Stratocaster, therefore it should be more iconic and better in some people's opinions. And you could argue that it is. People like Slash, people like Randy Rhoads have all put the Les Paul sort of up there on a pedestal, and to me, a dream guitar is a Les Paul. And I mean, I'm lucky enough to be in the position where I've got one. Yes, it's not the most expensive, the snazziest, but it was a dream guitar for me. So when some people think of a Les Paul, they will instantly go to the bad things, your tuning instability issues, the way the G and B string typically bind in the nut, which can be overcome with a few little tricks. The way that headstocks break if you don't treat them well. Touch wood, I've never had that happen to me. But I am always wary of it, and I'm careful when transporting that guitar. I made sure I got a hard case as soon as, because of that reason. But to me, for all its flaws, the guitar is just amazing. For me, it's one of those dream guitars. I'm lucky enough to own one. Yeah, not the snazziest, and I would like a proper standard one day, or even a custom shop. But for me, it was something to work towards, and something that I loved. Now, an even bigger debate is, which one is the iconic blues guitar? You've got to bear in mind, the early 50s and throughout the 50s and 60s, people were using Les Pauls to play blues, but people were using Strats to play blues. And nowadays, probably mainly because of Stevie Ray Vaughan, your John Mayers, your Kenny Wayne Shepherds, people will think of the blues guitar as a Fender Stratocaster. And because of its tones and the way that it marries up with certain pedals, for example, the Tube Screamer, most people would consider that to be your quintessential blues sound and blues guitar. But for me, I've got a bit of a wider view of it all, because I idolise Gary Moore for one, and that to me is the greatest. Yes, maybe it's a bit more of a rocky tone than your typical blues tone, but to me it's one of the greatest tones. And so many blues guitarists have done their thing with either a Les Paul or that twin humbucker setup. So that's one argument, and then there's also the iconic rock guitar argument. So when you think of your rock guitarist, you will think of people such as Slash, and because of that you see him smoking that cigarette with the 59 Les Paul, which wasn't a 59 Les Paul, wasn't even a Gibson. But anyway, most people won't know that. They will think of that as your hard sort of rock guitarist. But then you've got to bear in mind the Superstrat guys. You could go on for ages the influence that Eddie Van Halen had on people when he put that, I believe it was a PAF out of an ES335. I might be wrong on that. I'm not a massive EVH nut and don't completely know, but he put a humbucker into that Stratocaster body and, well, made history. And ever since you've seen people doing it, I've done it myself with my first guitar, as I showed. It's got humbuckers in it, HSH configuration. But to me, it's not sort of what camp either of those fits in. Because I can play rock music on the Strat, I can play blues on the Les Paul. I've even played funk on the Les Paul. Chose it over the Strat just because I wanted to rock things up every now and then. And you might call that sacrilege, but it works. You can make a guitar work for what you need to kind of achieve with it. Now, the biggest thing for me is the difference in feel, the difference of the scale lengths and how that neck of a 50s style. I'm not sure how accurate mine is. It's a 50s tribute, but the fatter neck feels in your hand. It's just a different kind of inspiring. So I think I've done enough talking. For me, both guitars are quintessential. You need both, and yeah, my argument is it just makes you play different. But in order to prove that, I'm going to chuck the Les Paul and my Fender Stratocaster, not the white one that you saw, into my Bugera 1960, because you know I'm going for sort of Hendrixy vibes and your typical Les Paul into a Marshall kind of vibe. And also I will chuck my first guitar, which has got those humbuckers in it, and show you how the worlds can come together to make a guitar that, you know, is just a lot of fun and something a bit different. So let's jump over and have a look. Okay, so a quick rundown of signal path. We've got the guitar going straight into the front end of my Bugera 1960 Infinium, and that is then going into the 2 notes Torpedo Captor X with a model of a 1960A vintage style Marshall cabinet. Now I've got a little bit of reverb from Reverb 2 within Cakewalk. That's simply because there's no reverb on this amp and I like playing with it. So what I'm going to do is just play whatever comes to me and whatever feels natural and maybe sort of highlights the style of the guitar. Now, some of you might think this is a little bit of unfair. Les Paul into a Marshall is a kind of iconic and classic sort of sound that everybody goes for, and that's instantly what you think of when you think of like rock music, for example. But to me, it's, you know, I think of either a Les Paul into a Marshall or a Strat into a Marshall because of the likes of Hendrix. So I'm just going to play, just going to enjoy myself, and yeah, we can sort of chat a little bit at the end about the differing tones of the guitars, but let's go. So what I did there was just basically just go through some different settings, rolling tone off, all the old classic ones that you kind of hear of a Les Paul. Now this is weird for me because I'm not playing with a ridiculous amount of gain like I usually do, so I'm just kind of feeling the guitar and I'm feeling what I'm playing. To me, the bluesy stuff comes really nicely on this guitar, despite what I said earlier with the kind of Strat versus Les Paul blues debate. And obviously there's that rocky sound, especially when you're on that neck pick. That to me is just, yeah, it's that snarly kind of rock sound. I'm actually going to turn it up a little bit because, you know, volume is better. So, yeah, that's the Les Paul. And let's see if I actually, I mean, I might have been talking out my arse. I might not actually play different when it comes to picking up the Strat. But let's find out, I guess. Let's jump over onto the Strat. I won't touch any of the settings. And one of the biggest things you'll notice is the drop in volume when it comes to using a Stratocaster. So let's plug that in and see what happens, I guess. So now I've got my 2013 Made in Mexico Strat. It's got different pickups in it. That kind of takes especially style pickups by Tone Rider pickups. And yeah, this is what this sounds like, and we'll see what kind of style comes naturally to me. So starting off on that classic bridge pickup. I'm going to jump in already and say it's a lot more brittle and hard. That's exactly why I've got this modified to have the tone here working. The bridge to kind of tame that. But I don't want to play the big chunky stuff that I'd usually play on that Les Paul. Like trying to play that same riff just doesn't feel natural. So, I mean, instantly going to the in-between positions, which you got on the Les Paul sort of in between those two pickups, but you've not got the in between the three, and that is where a Strat to me comes alive. So. So automatically I'm already doing a load more double stops. Maybe this suits me better, I don't know. It's just, it takes me away to somewhere else when I'm playing. So let's just chuck it on the neck pickup. Sorry, struggling to get my words out there. Yeah, it's just different. If I played that on a Les Paul, it just would not feel the same, and that's a riff that I can only play on this guitar, to be honest. It's not got the same feel. I don't know. If I'm looking at this from a guitarist point of view, and analysing what I'm doing differently, is I'm going a lot more for the more complex chords. I say complex chords. They're just, you're just talking about 7 chords. Going for more the letting the notes come through, whereas a Les Paul I'm instantly going to, I'm hitting it and I'm trying to go for the chunkier sounds, and to me that's the biggest difference. I mean, I did a song with my old band Off Topic called Catch Me, and that's the guitar for that song, sorry, was this very one. So it was all about the So I did a song with my old band Off Topic called Catch Me, and that was on this guitar, and it was more of the going into the highlighting the single pick notes and the glassiness of this tone. And that's something you can only get with single coil pickups. But I think I've unfairly given this way too much time compared to the Les Paul. So what I'm going to do now is jump over to your hybrid in between, kind of, you want to mix the two together. So now we're going into the territory of the hybrid kind of guitar, the Superstrat. So mainly popularised in the 80s when people started putting humbuckers out of Gibson guitars or similar kind of guitars into their Stratocasters to get that, what is considered the classic 80s sort of hair metal tone. So what I'm going to do is just play through this. Obviously we've got the HSH set up. I used to have a switch on this guitar which allowed you to go in sort of Les Paul in between mode with just these two, but alas I removed that, so all we've got is standard sort of Stratocaster selections. So let's just do some playing on this. So automatically I'm going to those the chunky power chord section again. It's a lot like the sort of Les Paul, but then you can go in between and you're in Stratocaster territory again, and obviously middle pickup. This to me is the ultimate way to sort of have best of both worlds. And then you go to that neck. And it's warm like a Les Paul, but the guitar still feels like a Strat. So go into that riff I was playing earlier. God, forgetting what I was going to say then. The riff I was playing earlier. Again, that still doesn't feel quite right, but if I put it on an in-between, which takes it more into Strat territory. I mean, it's one of those guitars, like you play kind of a hybrid mix of the two. I want to do the clean pick stuff, I want to do the Les Paul chunky stuff. So maybe this technically is the best guitar for me, but what I will cover is why that is not the case, and we'll do that in the outro. So apologies if you clicked on this video expecting an argument and a debate. What I've tried to highlight is put one of those guitars in my hand and I play differently. I'm more inspired to play different things. I tried to touch on that with I want to play the big chunky chords on the Les Paul, more single note stuff, more groovy kind of. How can I put it? The Les Paul is for filling your ears up with sound, with filling your ears up with volume and just going absolutely mad. And if you want to play solos, you tend to play a bit faster, I find, on a Les Paul, simply because you're just hitting that guitar differently and working with a neck differently. Now if you was to get two guitars like a Strat and a Les Paul with the same neck profile, it might be a different story. I don't know, I haven't tried that. But then we come on to the sort of conversation of that hybrid, the Superstrat kind of style. And as you heard, I could play Strat style stuff on it, I could play Les Paul style stuff on it. But to me, and I don't know how well it's come across in the recordings, I haven't reviewed them yet, but it didn't feel natural to do either. For me, with that guitar, I tend to stick on the bridge pickup and use it for playing power chords and more punky stuff, if I'm honest. Because what seems like the perfect amalgamation of two guitars I absolutely love, it's not as good as picking up a Les Paul. It's not as good as picking up a Strat. I'm not saying I don't love that guitar, it's great to play and gives me inspiration in its own ways. But to me, love or hate them, you've got to love both of them, or you hate both of them. That might be a completely different story, but for me, you've got to have a Strat and a Les Paul, and you can't kind of get through doing like one or the other. I've come to realise this with practicing my band. There's some Strat style songs that I play on the Les Paul, and now I'm contemplating taking an extra guitar along, just because the Strat is a different feel. It inspires me to play in the way that those songs require me to. And it's the same with the Les Paul. I couldn't really play Hendrix on a Les Paul because it just wouldn't feel the same. It doesn't give off that same vibe. And I wouldn't be able to go out and play Crazy Train, for example, on a Strat. I know that, I think that was a Les Paul recording. He sometimes played Fly V's live, but anyway, you get the sort of drift of that. So to me, no guitar is better than the other. The Strat is not better than the Les Paul. Les Paul's not better than the Strat. They are both great tools for what you need them for. And if you're one of those people chanting the Les Paul is the best guitar, or the same with the Strat, or even a Telecaster, any other guitar, every guitar's got its use. And that's one of the biggest things that I've come to realise. And unfortunately for the music I play, despite being a massive Strat fan, the Les Paul fits it better. And I say unfortunately, I shouldn't be saying that, because at the end of the day, the Les Paul is the right tool for the job. It works better. It does what I need it to do. But I think I've done enough rambling there. Let me know what you think is better, whether you guys play differently when you pick up a different one. I don't know if it came across that well, because at the end of the day, it is me. I'm the same person playing these guitars. So you might not notice a difference, but yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please comment, rate, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one, working towards that kind of goal of 200 subscribers. So it'll be good to kind of climb closer. We're in the 160 odd subscriber count now, so it's pretty cool. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.